op-ed circulated throughout all of my other former colleagues, and the list sort of began because I started hearing from a number of them who had suffered similar fates.
Did you get him in?
Yes, he actually lives with my parents now in Illinois.
I want to go to Haider Sayed Assad, worked as a translator with the U.S. Army in Najaf for 4 years. How did you get into the United States, and how are you doing in Ithaca, New York?
Well, thank you very much. It started after 2003 when militias and some people started targeting translators because of they started work with the United States government. I applied through the the bill that passed by the Congress in 2006, allowing 500 translators to come to the United States to live permanently in the United States. Within the help of Maura Stevens, she's one of the dearest friends of mine, I moved to Ithaca in October 2007.
And you came through Syria to come to the United States?
Yes.
With your family?
Yes. This is one of, in fact, most difficult experience for me and most of the refugees and SIVs and Iraqis in general. They're not being treated very well by either two governments, Syrians or Jordanians. They really struggle to live. They really struggle to manage their daily life. They don't have any type of income. They don't being granted as a resident for a short time either. So this is a very tough problem for them.
Maura Stevens, you've worked with Haider Sayed Assad as well as other Iraqi translators to try to get them into the United States and then once here to deal. You wrote a piece for Alternet, U.S. failing to help Iraqi translator and family targeted for execution. Explain.
Yes, that was actually Haider's colleague, Diabed Wahid, who, with his family, his family's home was bombed. He was a friend of mine from before the invasion. I met him just a few weeks before the invasion and got to know him well in Baghdad, where he was working. And I went back looking for him in the summer of '03 after the invasion, couldn't find him. 6 months later, I heard from his officer, U.S. Army officer, telling me that he was safe and that he was working for the Army. Well, he worked for the Army 4 years, and he and his family endured unspeakable hardship because of his work with the U.S. government. And I spent 2 years trying to get him out. It was really a nightmare working through the State Department and the National Visa Center. And fortunately, he made it here safely in September, and Haider came shortly after.
Maura Stevens, what are you doing around Congress now? This figure of, small Sweden accepting 18,000 Iraqis, the United States, which led the invasion over 5 years, accepting 5,000.
I know, it's simply disgraceful. I actually, my new group, Iraqi Refugee Assistance Connection, has petitioned Congress for certain things, including ensuring that the criteria for acceptance into the United States as a refugee for interpreters do not include needing a letter from a general or flag officer. There was a law passed saying that would not be allowed, but both Dia and Haider were forced to get letters from generals, and you probably know there aren't very many generals walking around Iraq talking to interpreters. Also, they had no financial assistance. They had to pay their own way to Syria or Jordan and often live there for months while waiting for approval, and then they had to pay their own way here. So we want to speed the visa application process to no more than 4 days and offer financial assistance during the waiting period, as well as airfare to the city where the interpreter's going, and other things.
Kirk Johnson, the piece that you wrote that got so much attention, Hounded by Insurgents, Abandoned by America, what can people do today?
Well, I mean, they can support groups like Maura's that just started up. There are so many people who have been trying, who care about this issue, who have been trying to make a difference. And sometimes it gets a little frustrating because it seems as though this is the most obvious moral imperative that the war has presented, and frankly, Congress, you know, they have tried. There was a bipartisan group of senators that passed legislation, but the main hang-up right now is the White House, and our president still hasn't uttered a syllable yet about what he thinks we owe Iraqis who are running for their lives because they decided to help our troops and our State Department and government officials. To that end, I mean, you know, the LIST project, we have things, people are forming LIST project chapters throughout the country now that are working. We give them sort of the rough idea, but then they work with their local congregations and other networks, and then to try to help the Iraqis that we've helped get in. So, you know,
Is there any chance of increasing the number that are allowed into the United States? Amnesty International particularly calling on the United States and the countries that were in the invasion to accept the refugees.
What I've been pushing for, I think, is a reconsideration of Operation Pacific Haven, which is what we did in 1996 after a failed coup in the north of Iraq. And President Clinton surveyed the traditional resettlement process and realized that it wasn't going to move quickly enough, which is emblematic of today. And so he ordered an airlift to our military base on Guam. And over the course of a week or so, he airlifted out nearly 7,000 Iraqis where they were processed there. They were kept safe from Saddam in Guam, and Americans were kept safe from any potential bad apple. Those Iraqis are now all Americans. They've been living in our country for a long time. They're productive citizens. There's no reason to suggest that we couldn't do the same thing.
Kirk Johnson, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank you for being with us, former USAID worker, works with the LIST Project, Morris Stevens for being with us from Ithaca, and finally Haider Saeed Assad, an Iraqi translator now living in Ithaca, New York. That does it for the show. Our website, democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Berkshire, Hoda Caduce, Anjali Kamat. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.